So now we're going to be connecting to our database through our application, and we're going to use a tool called Mongoose, which is object modeling for Node.js. And basically it allows us to create a model and a schema for different resources in our database, like products and users and so on. So if we go to the docs here, you can see defining your schema. So this is an example of a blog schema. You might have a title, author, body. You can set the types. You can set if they're required or not. And you can even create like Mongoose middleware that runs when you do certain things like save a document. So it's really powerful, and you might want to look through the documentation a little bit. But what we're going to do now is just install it, and we're going to connect. So let's jump back into VS Code and make sure you're in your root. Don't install this in the front end. So npm install Mongoose. And there's obviously different ways you can kind of structure this. What I like to do is in the back end, we're going to create a folder called config. And inside config, I'm going to create a file called db.js. So this is going to be our database config file or our connection file, whatever you want to call it. So first thing we want to do is import Mongoose from Mongoose. And then we're going to create a function. I'm going to call this connectDB, and this is going to be asynchronous because when we deal with MongoDB, when we call like .connect or .find or create whatever, it's always going to return a promise, and I want to use a sync await. So we're going to make this function asynchronous, and then we want to wrap this in a try catch. So in the try, let's create a variable called con for connection. And we want to await because mongoose.connect returns a promise. And what this takes in is our Mongo URI. Now we can get that from process.env.mongo_URI. And then we have a second argument we can pass in, which is a set of options. Now, with the current version of Mongoose, there's a few options that we have to add, or else we're going to get warnings in the console. So one of those is use unified topology. We want to set that to true. Another one is use new URL parser. We want to set that to true. And use create index. We want to set that to true. So just some options to pass in. And then after we connect here, we're just going to do a console log. And I'm going to log, let's put some backticks in here. And we'll say MongoDB connected, and then we can get the connection string, or the connection host. So right here, I'm going to take that con variable or con object and call .connection.host, and it'll show that in the console. Now, if something goes wrong and we can't connect, I'm going to just do a console error. And in here, let's put some backticks, and we'll say error : and then that error, this right here that's passed in, should have a message on it. So we want to just console log that error, and then we want to exit. So we'll do process.exit, and if we pass 1 in here, it means it's going to exit with failure. And then down here, we just want to export the function. So export default connectDB, and save, and we should be good with this. Now we need to bring this into our server.js, so let's go back there, and we'll go right under, let's see, right here, and let's import connectDB from, and that's going to be from our config, so /config/db. Now it's important, we have to add JS when we're importing files, because we're on the back end here using ES modules with Node, and that's one of the current rules that you have to follow. You have to do .js, so don't forget that. Now we brought that in, we have to call it somewhere, so let's just go right here and say connectDB. Whoops, connectDB. And we'll go ahead and save that. And now when we run our application, we should connect. So let's go down here, and we only have to run the server. So let's do npm run server. And here you can see server running in development mode on port 5000, and right under it we have MongoDB connected, and it shows the host here. Okay, so we're now connected. So we need to start to model our data, but before we do that, in the next video, I just want to install a package called colors so that we can add colors to our console and make these, these messages pop a little more.